is Elliot and Jose coming to you from my home in Streamwood, Illinois, here on the Comic Culture Warrior video channel. Had some...
Is this crooked?
No, it's fine. Had some technical issues with the first segment, and we rambled a bit, but whatever, you know. I'm calling it First Rambles, not First Rants. Any case, let's do a review, because I know you guys have been waiting for us to do that. And we're gonna review. Let's make this a Mark Millar double feature. We'll take a look at Avengers number 2, Ultimate Avengers.
Ultimate Comics Avengers.
Ultimate Comics Avengers number 2, and Kick-Ass number 6. Was it 7?
There's a number 7.
Oh.
Yeah, 7 issues in what? Over a year and a half?
Year and a half, something like that.
I like to call this comic, after reading it, I just want to call it Limp Dick. Because it's just as useless as a Limp Dick.
Okay. Just as useful as a Limp.
Well,
useless,
right.
Useless, useful.
Same thing, same difference.
Unless you're into that kind of thing. Alright, let's start off with Kick-Ass.
And this is for Pobra, by the way, because he made a comment, and we'll get into what was going on with the blog later on, but let's do this.
We announced that Kick-Ass number 7 finally came out, and mind you, I have not read Kick-Ass myself since issue number 2.
Mm-hmm.
I just dropped it, and I would try picking it up and reading it as it went.
These are one of the great things about working at a comic shop, though, is that I get to read all the shit for free.
Well, I mean, I could have read it too, but I read the first issue, and then I thought, okay, this is not what it was hyped to be.
Right.
And then I read issue number 2, thinking, you know what, it just needs to get going, and that's probably what it is. And I'm like, this still is not what it was hyped to be. And then I just dropped it. And then I picked it up again when the little girl with the swords.
Yeah, that was issue 3.
Was that issue 3?
Yeah, I think that was issue 3.
And I was like, this makes no sense to me. And now I read number 7 because everyone was talking about it. I thought, okay, let me.
Well, I think everyone was talking about it because it fucking came out. Yeah. It was like, oh my god, it came out.
Yeah. And it's kind of it's finally gotten to the part where the friggin' story started in the beginning, because when we first meet Kick-Ass in issue 1, he's getting his testicles electrocuted by these mob guys, and the whole story is a bunch of flashback. Yeah. It's all flashback. I'm just totally dumbfounded. One, because Mark Millar is a really good writer, and
not anymore.
This is not what I expect from Mark Millar, especially in the very beginning.
Really, this issue is exactly what I expect from Mark Millar. Like this new Mark Millar that started.
See, the
self-hyping Mark Millar, when he started doing that shit. This is exactly what I expected.
Is that the same Mark Millar who gave us this?
That's the exact.
Who gave us Red Sun? I mean, or was Mark Millar kidnapped and replaced by?
I'm believing more and more now that from a comment that somebody made that he ripped this off of Grant Morrison.
Oh, well, all I know is that this is
like a Grant Morrison
incredible stuff.
Well, that Superman Red Sun. I've gone on record saying that is one of the best comic books I've ever read. So it was amazing, but he kind of peaked after that, and then he did some cool stuff in Superman Adventures.
Yeah, the Superman Adventure stuff was awesome.
It was really, really good.
Yeah,
but I think like I said, ever since Civil War, that's when he just started going downhill. Stopped really caring, I think, and just cashing those fucking paychecks.
May I throw out a kind of a theory here? And I know maybe I'll catch crap for it because people are gonna now quote me out of context, but maybe Mark Millar doesn't love these characters like he loves Superman. I mean, when you have a character that you really care about and you love, you're very conscious of what you're doing. I read Kick-Ass. And this book is filled with loathing. It's filled with loathing and disdain, and it's depressing. And it's supposed to be a quote unquote realistic take on superheroes in the real world.
Not anymore.
And everything that goes on here, I can only imagine happening in the Marvel universe in a superhero comic. This kid would be dead by now.
But Elliot, he has like metal plates in his head now, and he's been rebuilt like the Bionic Man since You know?
He'd be dead.
I know,
yeah.
but that's the explanation in here. Is like this is how he could take all this punishment because of this shitty backstory that Mark Miller put into it, where he got beat up, he was in the hospital, and they had to put all these screws and shit in him. But yeah, I know. But it even gets to the point where, what's that girl's name? Hit Girl.
Hit Girl.
Like when she gets
shot by a ton of bullets.
Shot a ton of bullets and gets thrown. But I already knew that this comic jumped the shark. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty disturbing to see like a 10-year-old girl getting shot in the back, and then. But right away I was like, she's not dead. It's a superhero comic book, and this no longer falls into a realistic superhero comic.
Right. That's because I know. I mean, and then the reason she's not dead is because she says she has Kevlar down there under her. Okay, I know police officers who've been shot in their bulletproof vests. That shit hurts. Mm-hmm. That shit leaves a mark. You get shot once wearing a Kevlar vest, that can put you down. This girl got shot like 10 times, goes out a window and crashes into...
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7.
No, I'm sorry. And then count the first shot.
Oh, yeah.
So she got...
And then a couple of times in the spine region.
Well, you know what? Actually, she got shot once here... One, and then you don't see the second shot here. True. So you got 9 times.
And then she falls out of like a second-story window.
She crashes through a window and lands in the water. I'm sorry. If you've ever crashed out of a second-story window and gone into the river, this shit should have been swept downstream and gone.
And for those of you who are like, well, this is a comic book. Why the fuck are you... Well... We're talking about this because Mark Miller is selling this as a realistic
comic book.
So it doesn't work.
Yeah, this is comic book superheroes like they've never been done before. This is comic book superheroes in the real world.
You know what? And this has never been done before because it shouldn't. Because it's just utterly ridiculous and fucking stupid. Oh, and then, alright. I know that this is going to be a moment where all the big fanboys get their big hard-on for this comic, is when you finally get to see what's in Big Daddy's case, that he's been, and how he's been funding, like, his vendetta versus...
Yeah, his vigilante vendetta, right.
Is by selling all of his old comics.
Yeah.
Really.
On eBay. You know what makes no sense to me? Why the fuck are you carrying them around with you everywhere? If they're that valuable. You know, like
But you know what? I don't even see any DC comics in here, so this collection is pretty much worthless to me. To tell you the truth. It's a big fucking deal. You have an Amazing Fantasy 15. That's cool. But, you know, all the rest of his stuff, it's
Avengers #1. Avengers Fantastic Four #1.
But he's got multiple... He's got, you know...
multiple copies of stuff. Wow.
I'm sorry, but if you got nothing but Marvel, the collection is worthless. But this is how he funds it. And I know this goes back to the whole thing that this Kick-Ass is like a comic book fan. And this goes back to the whole 1985 storyline where the story was about a kid in our world who reads comics. It's like, all right, we get it. He's just like, it's so lazy. He's like, I'm going to write about fanboys, so fanboys are going to like it.
It's the power fantasy that fanboys are said to love, brought to life in a comic book. In a realistic comic book. And I'm going to keep using air quotes. I know it's obnoxious, but I'm going to keep using it because the fact of the matter is this is not a realistic comic book. And I mean, the Goombas, the crime, they're total. They're stereotypical. They're just... Mark Miller is writing a Hollywood movie here. He's not writing a realistic comic, and I'm sorry.
Well, and that's I think that's the only reason he did do this comic is so he could write it as a Hollywood movie, so he can sell it as a Hollywood movie. And guess what? Next year we have a Hollywood movie coming out from it. And man, that movie is going to be a huge piece of shit. If that movie follows this comic exactly, it is going to be a fucking train wreck. I saw the trailers that were online, that got leaked online. Man, does that movie look awful. And you know what? These fucking people who were at San Diego who were cheering that shit, these are the same fucking people who were cheering the spirit when Frank Miller was showing his 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We all know how awesome that turned out. I mean, if these people at these conventions would see that and just be like, what the fuck was that?
No, they're getting caught up in the... You're getting caught up in the moment is what it is. So, you know, that's what it is. But still... You know what? I'm tired of that. And then... What did I say about Avengers #1? I said it was pretty entertaining. Had one good moment in it.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty terrible all around.
Well, I thought it had one good moment. Ultimate Avengers #2.
Ultimate Comics Avengers. Come on, man.
The only good thing about this is
that it ended?
is the Carlos Pacheco artwork. That's about it.
Yeah, except for the fact that there was like 7 inkers on that fucking book.
Yeah, well, and
what's the problem with inkers nowadays? You can't have one inker on a book anymore. Just always got to be like 3, 4, 5 inkers on a book.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
All I
happens
know,
a lot on Doug Mankey.
The whole explanation about the origin of the Red Skull. Being an illegitimate child of Steve Rogers doesn't explain how the hell he's so friggin' young.
Yeah.
60 years or whatever. Yeah. It's a 19.
Yeah, the reason why Captain America's still around is because he was frozen in ice.
He was frozen in ice, but the kid should be older than him, and he's not. And I thought Steve Rogers was augmented. And they don't allude to any sort of augmentation or anything to the Red Skull in the story as far as Nick Fury goes. You know what? And then here's the other thing too. This is Ultimate Comics Avengers. This is supposed to be for new readers, so you know what? If I've never read a comic book, I can read it, and you know what? I can maybe like give it to my kids too.
No, not this one.
Not the violence in this book is just ridiculous.
Oh, there's a parental advisory though. So there you go.
Well, then you know what? Then you've just there goes your intended audience.
But
this book is now for the fanboys like us, and it's not for new readers.
And I will give Mark Miller this. In the initial Ultimates run, it was always a little bit more mature, but they always kind of straddled the line.
There wasn't any top graphic violence. Right.
But I remember in Ultimates 3, that's when it jumped the shark. But that was Jeff Loeb, because in the first scene, you see like Black Widow or Tony Stark like in a porn or something like that. And now it's just like but they always did a good job of straddling that line, making it realistic, making it a little bit more mature, but never really getting.
No, they've said it's
out of hand.
Marvel has said screw it with Ultimate Avengers. That's gonna be the adult fanboy book. It's not even gonna be for kids. It's not it. It's
but
not
you have the Spider-Man one which is kind of for all ages, but what if the kid wants to buy both of them? You can't.
You can't. There is no outside of the Marvel Avengers. There's no Avengers book out there that you can give the kids.
Maybe Mighty Avengers, actually.
Yeah, okay. Mighty Avengers. I'll give you that. But none of the real popular books right now, the Dark Avengers, New Avengers, the one that has Spider-Man in it, the one that kids should want to read, that's,
Oh, you mean like this awesome one?
Like this awesome one that we will talk about in the next segment. We'll see you then.